About 1 month ago, I completely hacked up my Mandula pothos just because it's looking a little bit bare on top. Now there are 2 spin-off benefits from that, so let's check it out. There are a few reasons why a trailing plant will lose its leaves on the top, leaving it quite bare like this. Now probably the number one reason is light. Now a lot of times people will have a pothos plant on a shelf like this. It'll be a nice, beautiful cascading plant, but they don't have any light at the top. It might have nice, healthy looking leaves on the trailing portion, but on the top of the plant, it might look a little bare. Another reason is watering issues, and I fell victim to this. I let mine get too dry for too long. Basically, I got multiple yellow leaves, majority of them being older, and they fell off, leaving me with these bare portions. Now, the same can be said for overwatering as well. If your plant stays in wet, soggy soil, you start running into root rot issues. So if you're seeing multiple leaves, then it is most likely a root issue. So pull it out of the pot, look at the roots, see what you're dealing with. If you have just one yellow leaf, one of the older ones, and it falls off, then it's just a natural aging or natural progression of the plant. If you want to go check out that other video, I'll leave it up in the top corner here. I essentially let it get too dry, and I just kind of went through the troubleshooting process of figuring out what was wrong with the plant. In that video, it had a few longer stems, which I cut back quite aggressively. You can see this right here. I believe this was another one. I could be wrong. And then there's one right over here as well. So it had kind of a longer stretch with no leaves, and then a section like this. Now the reason why I didn't just like snip it off like somewhere down here is because when you prune a pothos plant or any type of aroid like vining plant, most times wherever you made the cut, so if I cut it right here, it would activate nodes closest to where you made the cut. So if I cut right here, it would start a new stem right here. Now, if you have a long section of bare stem, then you're not going to get any fullness out of that prune. So that's why I pruned this one back to about 2 or 3 nodes. So I made the cut right here. There's 1 node, there's 2 nodes, 3 and 4. So you can see it's getting 1, 2, growth points so far. I don't see any on the first node there, but there are 2 new growth points. So these will be their own individual stems, and they will start to eventually leaf out. And this is a good way to get your plant fuller, just simply by making a cut closer to the soil line. As I spin this one around here as well, you can see that is where I made the cut, and it has activated 1 node right there, and it's activated, looks like 2 more nodes on the opposite side. So there's a little new growth point, and there's one as well. So pruning in one spot close to the soil line activates multiple nodes, and eventually you'll have a nice bushy plant from that. Now another spin-off of pruning a longer stem is you can get a bunch of individual nodes like this. Now I've cut them all into single stem propagations. So this is 1 node. I'm rooting them in water. Now each one of these single nodes or these leaves will turn into their own individual stem as well. So eventually they'll push out little growth points like that. So the goal is to eventually put these cuttings back in this pot, and I'll have 1 nice full pot of Mandula pothos again. I'm just going to check a few of these cuttings right here. You can see it's got a long, nice, juicy root, but it's also getting a new growth point right there. So this little nub right there is a new stem popping through. Let's see if there's any others. And this is simply just tap water. I just plunked them in there, and they all started to get new roots. So here's another one right there. So that is another growth point from the nodes. So it's going to push out a long stem, and it will grow into its own new vine with leaves and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really easy way to make your plant look fuller, but unfortunately it does take time. Now, like I said at the start of the video, I did prune this about a month ago. So these cuttings are definitely ready to be potted up, and I bought some new soil, which I'll talk about here shortly. Now, over the years, I've had really good success with propagating plants in water. Now, propagation is not an absolute guarantee, especially when you transfer them from water into soil. So I'll give you my little tips and tricks and secrets and all that kind of stuff to help you get the most amount of cuttings to survive when you pot them up in soil. My first suggestion is to pot your water propagated cuttings separately in a container of soil. Once they acclimate or once they condition themselves to soil, then you can add them into the pot. So you can make a nice full pot. Now I have in the past added these water cuttings straight into soil, but these two plants will require different conditions. Now when you take water propagated cuttings and put them in soil, you don't want the roots to dry out for at least a couple weeks. So you pretty much keep the soil not like soaking wet, but just you don't want it to let it dry out. Now the opposite can be said for this. After you've given it a good thorough watering, you definitely want to let this dry out, just because the roots will eventually, they'll just basically turn into mush if it stays wet for too long. So it's kind of conflicting care. So that's why it's good to put water propagated cuttings in their own container of soil, let them acclimate in that moist soil for a couple weeks, and then you can cut back on the amount of watering, let them get a little bit drier, and then I would say probably within a month or so, maybe a little bit longer, it should be conditioned enough to place it in the pot, and then you can just add them together. For most of my houseplants, I use an aroid mix. This is the VeryPlants aroid mix. You can see there's lots of nice big bark chunks. Got some perlite, some clay balls here as well. So this is really good for drainage and airflow. You want nice healthy roots. But for these water propagated cuttings, I think something like this will dry out much too fast. So I went out to one of my local plant shops and I bought a new type of soil that I've never used before. This is just a general potting soil. It is nutritional potting soil with excellent water retention. So the ingredients are cocoa coir, cocoa chunks, fine fir bark, perlite, worm castings, biochar, and sea minerals. So it looks like a nice mixture. Now I definitely don't want these cuttings to dry out as fast as this, so that's why I decided to try something new. Now you can use just a regular potting soil mixed in with some extra perlite, so maybe like 50% potting soil, 50% perlite, or even like a just a regular tropical plant mix. I know ProMix makes some, Miracle-Gro does as well, but I decided to try this, and I'm going to be potting them up in just another little plastic cup. I'm just going to start by putting some at the bottom of the pot, just like that, or like a little cup. I'm just going to pack that down a little bit. Now I'm going to take all of the cuttings out and kind of clump them together like a little bouquet of flowers. And that way I can have them all at the same height, and it's just a nice kind of clumping, clustering of cuttings. So this was a top cutting. You can see it's already getting a new leaf. It's got 2 nodes, so I'm going to keep these kind of at the edge like that. Same with this one. This is a top cut. I'm just going to find a spot at the back here. So I want all the roots and nodes at the same height like this. I'm just going to put it in the pot like this, and I'm going to hold it. I'm going to get the water out of the way. Oh, here's another straggler there. I'm going to put it all in there, and I'm going to see if I can just dump in some soil just so they remain at kind of the same height. And then I'm going to give it a good soaking, because like I said, I don't want it to dry out. So you can just drape the leaves over the side and then just dump in the soil. It's not the easiest process when you have like multiple cuttings, but it's, oh my goodness, they're all just flopping out. But as long as all the roots are down underneath the soil, then that is all you need. You don't have to pack it down. Once you give it some water, that will kind of solidify the soil as well. You can give it a little bit of a shake. Let's see if I can make this work down here. I do have a garden hose in my basement. I normally take it over to my bathroom over there, but I just want to clean off the leaves here, so give it a good soak. Oop, my table's getting wet, but there is no water on the floor, which is good, but I'm just going to soak. Oop, there's a little bit of water. Just going to soak this so it starts coming out the bottom of the cup here. I bought these at the dollar store, and then I just simply cut these little slits at the bottom here so the water doesn't sit in the cup here. And then if you want, you can use one of these cover cups, I guess you can call them. And then that way it'll just lock in all that moisture. And these cuttings should root successfully in the next couple weeks. I keep both of these plants upstairs in my living room. It's just off to the side of a south-facing window. These ones specifically are under grow lights, so they will be going back in their spots. So these ones can root, and then once they're fully rooted, I can add them back in this pot, and then they will just stay upstairs. And I will have a nice looking pot instead of this kind of weird gangly looking thing. So in a few weeks, I'll probably make another video of just adding these cuttings into this pot, and I'm really curious to see what the roots end up looking like. So I think that's gonna be pretty much it for this video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it down below in the comment section. Thanks for watching all my videos. Take care, everyone. Bye.